We will see how to self-host the StaticBackend server API. To follow along, you will need Docker and Docker Compose. It's easier to get started. If you don't have access to Docker, you can follow the written article, which have ways to implement or to run the self-hosted version without Docker. First, you will need to clone the core repository, like I was doing in here, and from here you have, you need to build the Docker image. If you have make available, you can do make Docker. And let's have a quick look at the Docker file. It's fairly simple. It's going to build the application and start the server. Nothing fancy there. If you have make, then you do make Docker. Otherwise, you can do docker build -t and having a tag. If you're going to use make, you will have to create a .env file. We provide a .demo.env file, so you can quickly copy the .demo.env file into the .env file that is needed to create or to run make commands. So let's build our Docker image now. It will take sometimes, but it's a fairly quick process, and it will build the application for you. And after that, we will run all the services via a Docker Compose file. So we provide a Docker Compose -demo file. So this is exactly what we will be executing now. So Docker Compose -f with the demo file and up. So all the services will start, the Mongo server, Redis, and one instance of our backend API. Now we can test our local installation by going to localhost 8099, and fair enough, it's working. Now you can create your first application. So to do that, you just enter an email in here. So this will create a new application, attach a database to that application, and create your root or your super admin user, if you will. Since we are in development, no email are sent or anything like that, so it's all printed in the console. Leave that open. You will need all those tokens soon enough. We can now test our installation from a JavaScript application. Let's create an extremely quick and simple JavaScript application that we will call demo. And from here, we will npm init. The goal of our application will just be to log in as our root user and create a task, and we will list some task after that. We will have a simple skeleton for this. It will be like a blank application, if you will, no UI, all on the console. So let's create a source directory and create a demo.ts file where we will do all our calls to the backend. We currently have a client library for JavaScript, so you can npm install at StaticBackend/JS. We do have one for Node as well and one for Go. So the JavaScript client give you access to all the functionalities that StaticBackend offer. So you just import at StaticBackend/JS and you import the backend object. Well, it's not an object, it's a function actually that we will need to call to have a local instance of a backend reference. So we from this backend call, we need to pass our public key that we received when we created our application. So this public key is important because it's what tells StaticBackend which database you are trying to perform operation on. and the region will be dev for now because we are, you know, locally running our own instance. If you were to deploy that in production, you would enter the domain name of your installation there. If you were to use the managed service, then you would use a region like NA1 for North America, for example. You have a register function here that we will not use because we already have a user, but just to showcase the library a little bit, we will take the email and the password that we received when we create our application, and from here we will be able to perform database operation on behalf of that user. So we will see how to do that. Let's sign in first with the email and password, and this will return a result, and all the database functionalities of this client-side library are using async await, so you can use await, and we will wrap that into its own function that we will call later. And from here, all the calls to the database are, you know, return an object containing a OK field, which is a Boolean. This is what we will check here. If it's not OK, that means that this call produced an error, and we can use the result.content as the error that we will use on the console.error. If everything went good, then we receive the token for that user. So we will need to store that token because all the subsequent database call needs to be authenticated to that user. So let's have a global variable. This is not really how you would do that in production. For a quick example, it's fine. So we will use the same content as received, like we did in our check for error. And now from here we can call another function, call create task, for example. So we will see how to create an object or a document into our database. The way StaticBackend work is by default, all database collections are read-only for an account and read-write for the owner. So you can see an account as being your customer, and your customer might have multiple users. So for example, in here we are going to create a task object. So we are using a document database. We are using MongoDB. So anything that you create in here as your data model is going to be stored as is on the database. But we are adding field for you, like the account ID, the owner ID, and things like that, and also the ID itself. So by calling the create function, we can pass our token. We pass the name of the repository for that. We call this tasks, and we pass the object. We can check again for the same error. If there is any error, then we can console error. If everything goes right, we will receive into the result.content the object that was created in the database with the automatic ID and the account ID. So we will see that when we run the application. So let's just console that for now. So we will console result.content. So we try to stay, very, very simple with the object that is returned from all the calls from the backend functionalities. So I think you will find that it's fairly simple. We will do almost the same for listing tasks. So again, how does that StaticBackend knows about which tasks to show? The token that we are using in the .list function will tell the backend to only filter for that specific account ID, because by default all the documents created for an account are read. So this is how it is working. We can check for our error, and if everything is fine, we will just console log the result.content. So result.content in this context will be an array. Well, in fact, it will be an object, a paging result object, but we will see that. But the point is, you only have to remember that all the call to the database returns an OK in a content object. So the content can take the form that you need it to take. In this instance, it will be an array. Well, no, not really. I did the same mistake. It will be an object, but we will have a dot results, which will be an array of tasks. We just hook the unload function of the window to start the login, or to call the login function. Let's install esbuild to build our application. I find it to be extremely quick because it does not rely on any configuration whatsoever. You're just passing a couple of option and the source file, their entry point, and that's it. So let's do that. Let's create a build task in our package.json. And let's do esbuild -- bundle, and let's have an output file of this /demo.js, for example. So I did not want it to do something too complicated, but I wanted to have this video to be complete. So it will not have any UI, but we still have a real JavaScript application. So our build works. So now we will need a way to display or to run that JavaScript bundle. Let's just create a simple HTML file that we will serve ourselves with a simple HTTP server. So we basically just going to import or link our demo.js file that we just bundled. And that's why I hooked the unload function of the window, so we don't have anything to do. It will kind of simulate a single page application, if you will, that would start itself. So let's bring our HTTP server quickly, and we will also create a npm start script, so we can do npm start and it will just serve our HTML file. So it's just to have something to show quickly. So let's take a look at our bundle. So it's there, and let's start our application and see what's going on. So as soon as we request this, our login function should be called, and our object is created, like we see here. And let's have a quick look. So StaticBackend automatically added an account ID and an ID for you that you can use everywhere, everywhere else, and start to build your application like that. And the results is an array of tasks that you receive. So this is a quick sample of what you can do. And now let's log in to our application to manage the backend. So this is an alpha version of the web UI that we are creating. So just as a quick reminder, we have a CLI that you can do lots of stuff to manage your account and your database and whatnot from the command line. But we also have started a web UI now. So if we go there, we can immediately see that we can see our tasks that have been created. Our task collection is there as well. So from here you have a basic way of looking into your database and even updating some fields. I'm saying some because we are only handling, you know, strings and numbers and boolean at the moment. So you cannot modify an object in here at the moment. But yeah, that's about it.